Enchanting, mysterious, and remote, the many islands of Lake Superior have a lot to offer the adventurous at heart. Yet few Minnesotans know what's really out there.
There it is. You can just get a glimpse off to our left now.
Tonight, we'll explore the jewels of the great lake that harbors their treasures, sunken and otherwise. From the Apostle Island beaches that give visitors the feel of the Caribbean.
You get down there and let the sand run up between your toes, and it's great.
To the delicate Arctic rainforests that lay hidden on an archipelago along the North Shore. These islands are unforgettable.
There are perhaps a dozen species here that occur only on the islands in this part of the world.
Permission to board is granted.
This boat captain will never forget the battle for his boat on the rocky shores of Isle Royale.
We had hit rock bottom, lost our vessel.
And a Minnesotan fulfills his dream of owning an island and creates a garden masterpiece.
Sometimes there's a parade of boats around, going around, especially when the flowers are in full bloom.
I'm Jason Davis. Come along as we explore the secrets of the islands of Lake Superior.
When we go on the road, there's a place I want to see. When we go on the road, why don't you come with me? Take a little ride, get a little windshield time. When we go on the road.
Under the shadow of Split Rock Lighthouse lies one of the smallest islands in one of the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. It's called Ellings Island, after two hardy Norwegian fishermen, Sig and Ed Ellingsen, who built a cabin on it around 1910. For some 30 years, they joined a handful of other Norwegian anglers making a living on this shore, netting whitefish, herring and trout. When the weather's good, you can still see foundations of the causeway that connected the island to the shore. You'd think that these little land masses poking above the surface of Lake Superior would all be somewhat similar, but we found some amazing differences. We begin tonight with the story of a man who nearly lost his life and his livelihood on the craggy rocks of Isle Royale. A sparkling white, graceful cruise boat waits for the day's passengers on a dock near Beaver Bay on the north shore of Lake Superior. Her name is Grandpa Woo III. The first Grandpa Woo was the father of Suzie Collars, wife of Captain Dana Collars.
How you doing?
Do we salute?
Oh, you certainly may. And
right.
Permission to board is granted. Hi, Mike.
This is Grandpa Woo II last fall, adrift and helpless in a gale that eventually smashed her to pieces on the rocks of Isle Royale.
We count our blessings. We were, in fact, very depressed last fall. We had hit rock bottom, lost our vessel.
Dana Collars spent 10.5 hours trying to save his stricken boat before being rescued by the Canadian Coast Guard. The loss of Grandpa Woo II was particularly hard for Suzie.
And that wasn't a boat was going away from me. It was my father. I cried my heart out because, I don't know, you just feel like I lost my family.
All engines astern, hard.
A generous insurance settlement and the lucky find of this new boat has put this unique service back in business. Cruising along the spectacular North Shore, affording visitors and locals alike a safe way to venture out onto moody Lake Superior, where, as Dana Collar well knows, the wind can whip up waves 26 feet high.
Can you imagine being here with the waves crashing on that cliff to our left, washing that sand and clay into the lake? Just amazing.
Suzie Collars' father died several years ago. His name, Grandpa Woo, lives on. This elegant ship keeps his memory alive.
When it's a beautiful day, I say, thanks, Dad. This is a beautiful day today. He's always with me.
Seven years later, Captain Dana Collars is still taking visitors out on Lake Superior in his treasured boat, the Grandpa Woo. His gamble that a cruise boat could be a successful business on this lake with such fickle weather conditions has paid off. The summer season is a steady mix of daily cruises, evening and dinner trips, and even a 4th of July fireworks voyage. But this particular run out onto the big lake has a special destination. I joined the skipper in his wheelhouse for a trip to one of Superior's most interesting islands.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching Encampment Island. Now, years and years ago, this is the place where the early French voyageurs who came to this area traded with Native Americans for furs. Now, they came here and they used this island as their encampment, thus the name, of course. And the reason they liked using Encampment Island to store those goods is because any visitors coming out to their area, of course, would have to cross the open waters of Lake Superior.
Today, Encampment Island is privately owned and held as a wildlife preserve. The only residents are birds and animals that have found their way here, like a pair of eagles that have built a huge nest in the treetops.
This nest here has been inhabited 8 years in a row.
The Grandpa Woo, under the guiding hand of Captain Collars, is the perfect platform from which to see an island like this. He's an expert in nudging the 42-foot-long vessel so close to the ancient rocks that you can almost reach out and touch them.
So let's take the Grandpa Woo. We're going to back up a little bit, come about to starboard.
Most of the people on board had never heard of Lake Superior's Encampment Island until this late summer cruise on the Grandpa Woo. But at the end of the day, as the elegant white vessel turns to head for home, they can look back at one of the lake's jewels and remember its colorful history.
But it is a little treasure, isn't it, that people don't know about? It's only a few hundred yards offshore.
It's a rather unique treasure here.
When I was told there were islands in Lake Superior that had their own microclimate that was like an Arctic rainforest, I was incredulous. But as you will see, these little isolated patches of land called the Suzie Islands are both beautiful and incredible. The only way to reach the Suzie Islands in summer is by boat, and few people make the trip. We crossed the icy waters of Lake Superior with botanist John Sanger and Chell Anderson from the Nature Conservancy. The fog-shrouded islands provide no safe haven for yachts, no harbors or anchorages for day trippers or those bent on a wilderness picnic. It's a combination of their remoteness and inaccessibility that makes this tiny archipelago unique. Formed of solidified volcanic lava over 1 billion years ago, the islands rose out of the glacial melt only comparatively recently. But in the past 10 or 11,000 years, they have evolved an unusual Arctic environment of mosses, lichens and plants that scrape a precarious existence from the wind-scoured rocks.
5 or 6 rare and endangered plants. There are perhaps a dozen species here that occur only on the islands in this part of the world and you would not find them on the mainland.
The interior of Suzie Island is a forbidding region of old spruce and pine forests draped with old man's beard. A dark, cold, and always wet Arctic rainforest.
The fog comes in and moves in, and so these islands are shrouded in fog much of the time, and so it's always cold and it's always humid. As a consequence, Arctic and subarctic things survive here where they wouldn't survive elsewhere. They're also protected from fire.
It has pretty much the highest form of protection that any natural area can have, because the Conservancy's only goal is to protect the natural features, the biological heritage that that particular site represents for either the state of Minnesota or for the planet.
If you come here, ride your boat and go around the island and look at things from the water and leave no footprints that way.
Suzie Island is now officially protected by the Nature Conservancy, but Lake Superior has been doing a pretty good job for 10,000 years. It's been called the Caribbean of the North, a cluster of islands on the other side of Lake Superior that offer tantalizing trails, sunken shipwrecks, and surprisingly, white sandy beaches.
Hey, the beach at Julian Bay is pretty special. The singing sands over there, the sands squeak when you walk on them.
They've been called the gemstones of Lake Superior, 22 islands of all shapes and sizes off the shores of northern Wisconsin. The Apostle Islands. All but one are designated national park land, and they are a magnet for those that love wildlife, adventure, and boating. A spectacular fall day is a perfect time for us to visit Wisconsin's Apostle Islands.
Okay.
Dave Losey and his obviously very able and experienced crew, David and Bernice Nixon, cast off from the dock in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and we head out for a short trip to one of the more interesting of the 22 islands that make up the group.
For the people who spend time up here, they don't want to go away.
These remote, mostly uninhabited dots of land of many shapes and sizes attract sailors, kayakers, campers, hikers, and tour boats. Having great chunks of land rear up from the lake bed can be hazardous to mariners, so 8 lighthouses have stood for more than a century protecting those who approach the chain of islands by sea. But Dave Losey knows his way to the most popular one of all.
Well, we've arrived at Raspberry Lighthouse, and looks like we've also got a tour boat up here at the lighthouse at the same time.
Raspberry Island boasts one of the oldest lighthouses on Lake Superior with its distinctive red roof. It was built way back in 1863 to govern the west entrance to the Apostle Islands.
It is a very beautiful place. I think of it as a queen standing here, and it was a safety for all those boats that came. There were over 400 boats a year, steamboats in the early years that came down this channel.
A smattering of buildings, a well-tended vegetable garden, and trails into the island's old-growth forest look interesting and inviting. But just about every visitor heads first for the stairs. Dave Losey, now retired at 60, says he must have seen the view 50 times, but the crystal clear lake never fails to amaze him.
Not very many places in the world where you still have water like this.
Basswood Island is known for its old sandstone quarries. Oak Island offers visitors a challenging hike up the cliffs into a hardwood forest.
The trail right there in that little cove leads up to the top of Oak Island. Connects with a trail going back down the other side.
But if it's solitude and beauty a sailor craves, Dave Losey recommends you turn your bow towards the largest and most diverse island called Stockton.
Normally, if a lot of sailboats come back here and anchor through here, it's just a wonderful sand beach from, as you can see, from here all the way down. It almost reminds you of the islands in the Caribbean with the white sand.
A golden stretch, a mile and a half long, edges the shallow waters of Julian Bay that, amazingly for Lake Superior, warms up to swimming temperatures on a hot day. Adventurous divers can check out what's 10 feet under this buoy, the remains of an old lumber schooner that caught fire in 1905.
Boat burned to the waterline and sank in Julian Bay, and that's where the remains lie today.
A peaceful and sheltered corner of Stockton Island is a great place to tie up for a few hours to explore. But watch out, this place has the largest number of bears in the Apostle Islands.
At one time was thought to have probably the densest black bear population in the country. Now, that's not the case right now, but there still are about 24 bears on the island.
Sandwiched between Stockton's rocky shoreline and the interior are cool forests with a wide variety of unusual plant life. It's an oasis of quiet that these avid boaters treasure highly.
Everything you see out here, the water, the trees, the rocks, the sound of the waves, it's all so beautiful and peaceful. There's no place like it.
These boaters think they found paradise in a lake north of St. Cloud. Coming up, you'll hear how one man created his own island-sized garden. And later, an on-the-road classic story about a disappearing breed on Lake Superior. Did you know that the exact geographic center of Minnesota is an island? Of course, it's not on Lake Superior, but it is special because it's owned by a man who turned it into his own personal paradise. Over more than 30 years,
Jump, that's a good boy.
Barney Rosen has hauled rocks, plants,
Here we go, Hoochie.
trees, shrubs, and black dirt across a mile or two of water to his garden. Most of the time he's alone, except for a four-footed friend like his latest lovable but not too smart basset hound named Hooch.
They don't come any dumber.
The strange odyssey began in 1965 when Barney saw a 16-acre island advertised for sale. It was winter and the island was covered with snow, but he bought it virtually unseen for about $6,000. The following spring, he didn't find a Garden of Eden.
When I got here, it was all poison ivy, 100% covered.
But Barney had a vision. This overgrown chunk of land, lying at the exact geographic center of Minnesota, was going to be his life's work. So for 33 years, Barney has toiled, clearing away weeds and planting trees, shrubs, and flowers. Today, his island is surrounded by a walking path that leads from one garden to another. Displays of flowers and landscaping that can also be seen easily from surrounding Fish Trap Lake.
Sometimes there's a parade of boats around, going around, especially when the flowers are in full bloom. And they appreciate it. And if somebody appreciates what you've done, why, whatever it is, you'll like that.
So Barney and Hooch spend the long summer days in their solitary but satisfying existence, far from the madding crowd, but close to what they like best.
That's a good boy. You see
each other.
A lot of times very quiet here.
And their island that Barney has just renamed Hemeroculus, which is the Latin name for daylilies. Barney Rosen says he'll continue to cultivate his beloved island until one day he might sell it to a millionaire, on one condition, that the buyer hires him back as chief gardener. Perhaps the easiest island on Lake Superior to get to is Madeline Island. Hop on a ferry for 20 minutes and you're there. We made it this week's On the Road destination. In late spring, summer and early fall, the Madeline Island ferry line is easy to catch. It runs every half hour during the daytime and costs $28 for a car and driver. Passengers are extra. Once you arrive on the island, the town of La Pointe has a few streets, enough to offer visitors places to eat and things to do, like motorbiking. Tom's Burn Down Cafe is a favorite watering hole that provides its own conversation starters if you've got nothing to say. And a mishmash of historic buildings connected together make up the Madeline Island Museum, which is a good place to go to understand why La Pointe was once a booming metropolis in the 1900s. Just a short drive out of town, you can sample the nicer side of island life at the oldest resort on Madeline Island, called Cool Park Manor. The owners have restored the croquet lawn and formal gardens that date back to the 20s. Guest cottages right on the lake provide a view of Bayfield and passing waterfowl. If you'd like more information about Madeline Island, just go to our website at www.kstp.com, click on More News and look for 5 on the Road. Just ahead, you'll meet one of the last Minnesotans to follow an old way of life along the shores of Great Lake Superior. Have you caught a glimpse of our friend Hitch tonight? If you do, tell us where you saw the toad at www.kstp.com and you'll be eligible for an on-the-road souvenir. As we told you at the top of the show tonight, back in the turn of the century, this island was the site of a big fishing operation. The Norwegian fishermen took about a ton of fish a day out of the lake with their cotton nets. In 1997, we met one of the few hardy individuals that's keeping that tradition alive. They were among the first wave of pioneers who saw the promise of the north shore of Lake Superior. Scandinavian immigrants who brought with them little else but the fishing skills they learned in the old country. And Walter Svea's father was one of those fishermen who began what became a major fishing industry. But that was in 1927, when the herring ran in huge schools just off the lake shore. Today, after a series of environmental disasters caused by pollution and the impact of exotic species, there are few fish left. Once, there was a commercial fishing operation every half mile for nearly 100 miles. Now, most of the buildings are abandoned, and the sights and sounds of a fisherman setting out at dawn to tend his nets are fading into history.
Years ago, we used to have 7 fish dealers in Duluth, and now we only have 1, and the only time he buys is in October.
Walter Svea is 70 years old, but he goes out nearly every morning to catch fish, or at least until the lake freezes over.
My dad kept fishing till he was, well, 86, I guess, was when he was last on the lake. So a year before he passed away. So I should be able to keep on just as long, shouldn't I?
Walter Svea and a handful of other old-timers are the remnants of a traditional way of life that's disappearing under a wave of construction and commercial development. But there is hope that the Svea family will stay in the fishing business. Walter's son Eric works alongside his father cleaning the day's catch and plans to make his living the same way his grandfather did 70 years ago. Isle Royal, the Apostle Islands, Suzie Islands, unspoiled gems of Lake Superior protected by the National Park Service for us all to enjoy. By all means visit them, but I advise you to do it in the summer. I'm Jason Davis. Drive carefully, and we'll see you next week.